Now, I might be dating myself here. I might be exposing myself as an OG, unk, old head, whatever you want to call it. Do you guys remember back when you were kids, before school, you'd wake up, your dad would have Sports Center on the TV. You know, they got the little scrolly thing on the side that's showing you what's up next. And for 30 to 45 minutes before school, there was nothing wrong in the world. And now fast forward to today, and you have ESPN releasing articles like this one. NBA 25-26 season win projections for all 30 NBA teams. Now, I'm sure some of you may have seen this article already. I certainly have looked at this article a lot, mostly in disbelief at some of the things that are said in it. But with the NBA season one day away, I thought it'd be a good idea to run through this article, give you guys my reactions, as well as just talk about my predictions for this upcoming NBA season, kind of based off of what's going on in this article. But before I get into the video, if you guys love all things NBA just like I do, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Leave me a comment about some of your NBA predictions. I love to talk about all things NBA, and so I'd love to hear your guys' takes. And if you get to the end of this video and you guys really enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button. Lets me know that you guys like the content that I'm putting out. But with all that being said, let's get right into the video. All right, so basically this list just goes through the Western Conference and then the Eastern Conference, shows what the line is for ESPN's betting website for wins in a season for each NBA team, and then gives their thoughts on what their projected wins are going to be in their opinion. So we start with the OKC Thunder, not really breaking ground, not really anything too crazy. Then you go down to the number 2 slot and you got the Golden State Warriors. So they have Golden State projected at 56 wins, which is 10 wins over their line for the season. I've seen a lot of people not be a fan of this take. In my opinion, it's not that crazy, and it comes down to what they included in their little blurb, saying that once they did trade for Jimmy Butler, if you were to extrapolate their record out to a full season, they won at a 63-game clip, which I think the Warriors are going to come in and surprise some people because their record last year was not indicative of how they ended the season, especially after they got Jimmy Butler. But at the same time, I feel like ESPN is not taking into account how much better other Western Conference teams got. You have the Nuggets who got better. You have the Clippers who got better. You have the Spurs who got better. You have the Rockets who got incredibly better. I'm a little less like, oh my God, like freaking out about this opinion by ESPN. But at the same time, I don't put the Warriors as number 2 in the conference to end the season. I see them more in the middle at 4 or 5. Denver Nuggets, I don't think they made any crazy big moves, but they made a couple small moves that together are going to make a pretty big difference in my opinion. Cam Johnson, I think, fits this team a lot better than Michael Porter Jr. Not as much of a shot chucker like MPJ. I wouldn't say Cam Johnson's pass button is broken on his controller. There were times where Michael Porter Jr. might have even forgotten there was a pass button on his controller. Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., in my opinion, huge loss for the Pistons. I would have loved to see them get THJ back. And the Nuggets got him on a really cheap contract. And so I think that's going to be a big pickup for them. And then Valanciunas, there were questions about whether he was going to actually even play in the NBA this year. But it looks like he's suiting up for the Nuggets. And that fills their biggest gap I felt like they had last year, which was a competent backup center to kind of take the load off of Jokic, at least a little bit night in and night out. Nuggets I can get behind at the 3 spot, 3 or 4. Next we got the Clippers. If you've kept up with what I've been saying these last couple weeks, I think the Clippers are an underrated team this year. Yeah, they're old as dirt. It's possible that all of them just crumble when the opposing team breathes on them in their first game. But the stipulation is, and it's a pretty big stipulation, if they all stay healthy, this team can genuinely compete for a championship in the Western Conference, in my opinion. Kawhi Leonard's that dude. We all know about Kawhi. Harden's still got a lot to give. The pickup of John Collins was huge. The pickup of Bradley Beal on an actual contract that reflects his value as a player is huge. Brook Lopez as a backup center is huge. And also, in my opinion, a team full of veterans is going to do a lot better in the playoffs than a team full of young guys. We saw a lot of young guys in the playoffs last year really struggle because the playoffs are a different animal. Let's just be honest, this isn't the regular season. Dudes come out with a lot more nerves in the playoffs than they do in the regular season. We saw guys last year like Jalen Green and Amon Thompson for the number 2 seed Houston Rockets kind of struggle in the playoffs and get bounced by the number 7 Golden State Warriors, who were a team that had a lot more veterans and a lot more dudes who have been in the playoffs, have playoff experience, and ultimately that set them over the edge. And so I think if this Clippers team can get to the playoffs relatively healthy, I think they can do a lot of damage in the playoffs, and I think they're being underrated by a lot of NBA teams. I like them at 3 or 4, but I think in the playoffs, I think if they stay healthy and they get in the playoffs, I think they do a lot of damage. Now this one's a little ridiculous. Houston Rockets at 5. I don't understand their logic here where they think that a team that was the number 2 seed last year drops down to the 5 seed after getting Kevin Durant, and the rationale for why they have them so much lower is Van Vliet's injury. Kevin Durant, Fred Van Vliet. Not to mention, we've seen in these last couple weeks, Reed Shepherd's gonna get an opportunity at this point, probably as their backup point guard now that Van Vliet's out for the year. And he's been putting up some pretty scary stat lines. In my opinion, if I'm making this list, I'm switching the Warriors and I'm switching the Rockets. And I'm putting the Rockets at 2, I'm putting the Warriors down at 5. Los Angeles Lakers. Again, I've been very critical of the Lakers over these last couple weeks. I really don't know how good they're going to be. Even with Luka and LeBron, I guess you can group in Austin Reeves. I just think that supporting cast over in Los Angeles has been just completely gutted to the point the Lakers don't have any assets. They don't have any cap flexibility in order to get a competent supporting cast around those 3 guys. I mean, it really is like Reeves, LeBron, Luka, Hachimura, and then a bunch of guys that I'm really not impressed with. Every year we look at the Lakers like, oh my gosh, they went out and they got a new star. They're going to be so good this year. We saw it with Westbrook. We saw it when they traded for D'Lo. We saw it with Luka, and they've disappointed every single time. Personally, I'm kind of over the Lakers hype. I have Lakers fatigue. I see them personally more as like a play-in team this year, like an 8, 9, or 10 in that range. I think ultimately they just kind of got to ride out until LeBron retires, and then take that open cap space and sign some competent role players with that money to build around Luka and Reeves. I just don't think you have a deep enough roster to really make a push in this super competitive Western Conference. Memphis, I honestly really don't know much about Memphis. I know they lost Desmond Bane. Ja Morant's been so up and down these last couple years. I don't really know what to think about him. I like the Grizzlies at, a play-in tournament spot, in my opinion. Same thing as Minnesota. I thought they were really disappointing last year. Obviously, Anthony Edwards is a generational talent, but their acquisitions that they got in Randle and DiVincenzo, I'm not the biggest fan of Julius Randle. He falls into the category of like shot chucker, in my opinion, inefficient. Rudy Gobert, good on defense, but has the skills of like a 6th grader on offense, in my opinion. He'll be good inside, rim protecting, but he's not going to be a difference maker. DiVincenzo, his shot fell off a cliff last year. Kind of scary that you traded for a guy who was supposed to come in and be like a 3-point shooter, and he didn't really do that very well last year. It'll be interesting to see what he does this year. You lost Nah, that's a huge loss, but at the same time you do have some young guys coming in Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr., who have the potential to take the load off of the losses that they incurred this offseason. I like the Timberwolves at where they have them. Now, if the Mavericks had a healthy Kyrie, I would put them in like a 6 or 7 spot instead of a 9 spot. But with Kyrie out, I'm not sure AD can carry the load. I mean, a lot of people think Cooper Flagg is going to be an instant star when he comes in. As a fellow white guy, as much as I want that to be true, and back my fellow brother, we've never seen a rookie come in and be like an absolute difference maker in their rookie season. Wemby, we didn't see it. And then going all the way back, LeBron, who is one of the best players of all time, even in his rookie season, his team was not good. No No rookie ever comes in and just dominates like that. It makes a difference in the win column. They need a couple years in order to be that impactful player. And so with Kyrie out and there's really no timetable, I like where they have them. Now the Kings, in my opinion, this team has got to gut the lineup. They have no positive young assets on the team. They have no draft capital. They have a bunch of old guys. They have Sabonis, who I'm hearing is going to be injured for the beginning of the season. Zach LaVine came in and really didn't make a difference when they traded for him. DeMar DeRozan was rough last year. Like, they brought in Dennis Schroeder, but like, Dennis Schroeder as your starting point guard is not going to be a difference maker. I really just don't know what the Kings are doing. I think they're becoming one of those teams that we see where they just don't want to go into a rebuild. When everybody's screaming, even Kings fans I've seen on social media are screaming for them to enter a rebuild. For some reason, they just don't want to accept it. They think they can get out of their current situation with the roster they have, and I just don't see it. I see them at 10 or even lower this year. Now the Spurs, I don't know what they're thinking here. I think the Spurs are going to be a lot better than most people think. Like, Wemby looked straight up unguardable in preseason this year. Even by other centers, they just couldn't guard him. They now have De'Aaron Fox for a full year, which is an amazing point guard to put alongside Wemby. They have great role players in Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Luke Cornett, Jeremy Sohan, and they have the number 2 pick in the draft this past year in Dylan Harper, and the past rookie of the year in Stephon Castle. I don't understand how you can look at this team and look how deep they are and be like, yeah, no, this team's probably not making the playoffs this year, alongside a top 5 player in the league, potentially, like Wemby. Portland, they're not going to have Damian Lillard this year. We'll see how some of their pieces developed. Denny Avdija, Tamani Kamara, those are solid players that look like they could be genuinely good pieces, not only on the Trailblazers, but on a lot of other NBA teams. Shaedon Sharpe, I just haven't seen the jump yet from him. Scoot Henderson, same thing. Klingon's going to get a lot more run with DeAndre Ayton out. This is a team I really feel like I can't comment on until I kind of see them play this season to see how all these guys are developing. And then Phoenix Suns, New Orleans Pelicans, Utah Jazz, this is kind of where I see all of them ending. I don't want to spend a ton of time on these bottom of the league teams. So we're gonna go right through and go to the East. Cleveland Cavaliers at the top of the East. I 100% see that happening. Incredibly deep team who quite literally lost nobody and got Lonzo Ball. It basically was a Ty Jerome for Lonzo Ball swap when you think about it. And personally, I think Lonzo Ball is better than Ty Jerome, and he's kind of shown that so far in preseason. He's looked incredible as their backup point guard and the guy to run that backup offense. Personally, in my opinion, I see the Cavs being the number 1 seed in the East and Lonzo Ball being a front runner, if not the 6th man of the year by the end of the season. Magic at 2, Knicks at 3. I probably would swap these. I like the moves that the Magic made in the offseason, but they've kind of disappointed me the last 2 years. I felt like they've underperformed a lot. Based on when I look at the roster on paper, I feel like they should be doing way better than they actually are. So I'm not fully convinced that just adding Desmond Bane can turn them into like a top team in the East. I think the Knicks are a lot more established than the Magic. The Knicks have been in the top of the East for the last couple years. They have that really good starting 5, and they did kind of add some bench depth, even though I still think their bench is a little weak, and that could hurt them come playoff time. But personally, I think the Knicks are definitely the 2 seed in the East by the end of the season, and the Magic are probably the 3 seed. Now I'm going to kind of jump around for these next 3 teams, because at 4, we have the Pacers, and at 5, we have the Celtics, and then at 8, we have the Pistons. Now, this genuinely makes absolutely zero sense to me, so maybe some of you could clear this up for me. But basically, from what I'm reading from these, ESPN is saying that the loss of Miles Turner and Tyrese Halliburton for the Pacers and the loss of Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, and Kristaps Porzingis affects those 2 teams less than the loss of Malik Beasley for the Pistons I really don't understand how anybody can think about that and be like, yeah, this is a logical thing to think. Malik Beasley, yes, was amazing for the Pistons last year, but he really is just a three-point shooter. And the Pistons got a really competent replacement for him in Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson can come out and do exactly what Malik Beasley did last year. Nobody's going to come out and do what Tyrese Halliburton did last year for the Pacers. Nobody's going to come out and do what Miles Turner or Jason Tatum did for, the Pacers and the Celtics. And so for them to have the Pistons lower than their over-under and the Pacers and Celtics higher than their over-under and have that sort of logic genuinely just does not make any sense to me. I don't get that at all. And so I would say Pistons are probably going to be in the 4 to 5 spot, and then Celtics are going to be back in a play-in spot like 7, 8, 9, along with the Pacers. Number 6, Milwaukee Bucks. They did lose Dame. They did lose Brook Lopez. It really comes down to, are any of their bench players going to get better this season from last season? Miles Turner takes off some of the load that you get from losing Dame and Brook. I'm not sure if he's that impactful of a player to take away all the load and make them a better team than they were last year. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I kind of see the Bucks in this position at like 6 or 7. And I see Giannis probably asking for a trade, either at the trade deadline or at the end of the season. I don't think Giannis can carry this team to where he wants them to go, which is ultimately a championship. This is not a championship team when comparing them to other teams in the East. And even if they got to the finals, there are so many teams in the West that I see just outmatching this team on all fronts. Now, the Hawks at 7 is another one that I don't really understand. How you can put the Hawks under the Celtics and Pacers going into this season. The Hawks brought in Nah and Tingus Pingus. Jalen Johnson has a ton of potential, potentially an all-star player in a couple years. Dyson Daniels, one of the best defenders in the league. Trae Young's been one of the best distributors, borderline all-star for years now. And so, I don't get how they can put the Hawks lower than the Pacers and Celtics when the Pacers and Celtics actively lost players as a net and got worse, where the Atlanta Hawks only made improvements to their roster. And so I would probably take the Hawks and the Pistons, who are at 7 and 8, and I would put them at 4 and 5, interchangeable, whichever way you want to go. And then I would take the Pacers and the Celtics and put them down at 7 and 8. Now the Raptors at 9, I'm a little worried for the Raptors because what I've seen so far in preseason has looked really rough on the offensive side. Brandon Ingram's looked really good, but it doesn't, like, when I watch possessions, it just doesn't look like the offense flows well. Like, I think RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, and Scotty Barnes are all guys who kind of want to have the ball in their hand a lot and initiate offense and look for their own shot before getting others involved. And so a lot of times the offense has looked really stagnant to me. And so far, I think Scotty Barnes has looked really bad in preseason, in my opinion. I think he kind of peaked in like his rookie or his second year and has kind of just stayed the same or gotten worse. Whereas like other dudes in his draft class, like Cade, like Mobley, like Franz, have consistently gotten better season after season. And so I'm not as high on the Raptors as they are here. I think the Raptors are probably going to be like in the 11 or 12 spot this year. Personally, I just don't see how that lineup meshes on offense. Yeah, their defense is good, but if they can't score on offense and keep up with guys on offense, I don't see them doing much in the East. Miami Heat, another team that probably just needs to blow it all up. Get rid of Hero, get rid of Adebayo. It's pretty obvious to me that this team doesn't have the pieces to compete in the East. I just think they had their shot with Butler. They got to those 2 NBA Finals, which is no slouch. I mean, 2 NBA Finals appearances, that's amazing. But you can kind of see that they're on the decline, but they just don't want to accept it yet. By the end of the season, it's going to be pretty disappointing for them. And hopefully then they'll kind of be like, all right, we need to make major changes. I could see them at 10. I could see them down at like 12 or 13. 76ers, another team that pretty much depends on if their players can stay healthy. Pandemic P, podcast P, playoff P, whatever you want to call him. He looked rough last year. We'll see if he can bounce back. As a guy on the tail end of his career, I don't really see it. Embiid, again, I think time is catching up to him. With all the leg and knee injuries that he's had, I don't really see how he could come in and like just have another bounce back healthy season. I think he's going to deal with leg injuries for the rest of his career. And so I kind of see them where they're at right now, personally, just because I just don't see them staying healthy enough. Bulls, the Bulls, again, I just don't understand what they're doing. Vujacic, I mean, they've been trying to trade this guy for like 5 years now. I don't understand the Kobe White and Josh Giddey pairing. They're both guards who like to have the ball in their hands. Giddey likes to have the ball and distribute, and Kobe White initiates offense with the ball in his hand. I don't see Kobe White being able to play off the ball, which automatically just makes the pairing of the two just not make any sense to me. Again, they have some pieces. Buzelis looked really good in preseason, but it's like if they're not making the push for like the playoffs, but they're also not bad enough every year to get a good draft pick, I don't understand why they're not making bigger moves than they have. I think you need to get rid of Kobe White personally and just run as Giddey and Buzelis as the two main guys in your offense. You wait out that Vujacic contract. You try and get some good draft capital or some good assets for Kobe White, who I just don't think meshes with this team, and at the same time, I think is probably as good as he's going to get. I don't think Kobe White's getting much better. I think he's hit his peak at this point, and it's kind of showed that he's not a guy who can be a major focal point of your offense and result in winning. And then again, Hornets, Nets, Wizards, all kind of where I think they're going to be. I don't think any of these teams are going to surprise anybody, and jump up to a play-in spot or anything like that. Nets obviously rebuilding. I don't think they're going to be anything special, with their best player being MPJ. And then the Wizards are still working on developing guys. Hopefully a couple of these guys that they've drafted in the last couple years, Koulibaly, Sarr, and now Trey Johnson, hopefully some of them take a jump to be like an elite player. But it remains to be seen so far, but we'll see. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel like I kind of gave my take on every team going into this season. Again, games start tomorrow. Super excited. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to smash the like button. Let me know what your guys' predictions are in the comments about where you think some teams are going to end up. If you agree with what I say, if you agree with what ESPN had, let me know. I'd love to talk. I'd love to discuss, see what other people are thinking. And if you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe. I'm going to be posting like crazy as the NBA season is finally ramping back up. And if you guys like this style of video where I just kind of look at some content and react and give my thoughts on it, watch this video. I'm reacting to NBA tweets, NBA funny tweets, giving my opinions on them. If you guys like this video, you'll for sure like that one. But yeah, that's all I got for this video. As always, peace and love, guys.